Hey, what's going on, everybody? It's your boy RT, aka Teezy, and welcome to the season finale of Keeping Up with Teezy. Sorry that I have been on and off on this podcast over the last few weeks, because especially over the weekend, last weekend, I had just got over a cold that was kicking my ass over the weekend and all that shit. But I'm good now. The cold is no joke, especially now that spring's here and these damn allergies are out there in the pollen. That's something I definitely not ready for at all. I'm definitely not ready for none of this shit here. But I gotta try to make sure I try to stay clean and eat healthy for this year. Especially with me and my fiance's wedding coming up next summer, should I say. We're going through financial issues right now, but we'll get that on the way. We still got time and all that stuff, so we gotta start saving money and all that stuff, so we should be good for now. Yeah, so like I said, I apologize that I haven't been on, especially those that been following me on Facebook and Instagram that been following me, that been following both of my pages on Facebook and Instagram that I've been off on social media for the last couple weeks, because I'm trying to think of stuff what I'm going to do, especially for the next season, because I want to try to start changing stuff up for this upcoming season, which I'm hoping I'll start by doing this summer, especially if I could try to get more interviews, interact with people and all that stuff, get my podcast really popping. Trying to take it to the next level. Because this is only the beginning stages. I ain't gonna give up on this yet. So, trust me, be on the lookout for that. Because, trust me, it's gonna be something big. Watch. Damn, I'm dehydrated as hell. Yeah, so be on the lookout for that shortly, especially after this podcast. So, yeah. So on this episode, I was going to forgive me. I was going to talk about, ever since I had talked about, my era of hip hop growing up, that's something that I thought I'd share with y'all, how hip hop really was when I was growing up, because especially the music today, I could deal with certain songs nowadays or certain people, but it's just nowadays, over the last decade, it's the same shit over and over, especially with the same beats and all. I just can't get into it like that. Especially y'all goofy niggas be hyping up that dude NBA Youngboy. I don't. And all these other cats that don't be saying shit. I don't know how y'all be liking these niggas and they don't be talking about nothing. Bunch of mumble jumbo. I can't get into that shit. Even when I hear I remember I was listening to one of his songs. I think it was called Round and Round or some shit. And I'm just sitting there how does niggas, especially when I saw the video and old boy was in that joint, and some dude that was like all up on him, damn near grinding on him. I was like, what the fuck is this? I was like, is this what hip hop going to nowadays? That shit, like, that shit would have never happened back in the day. Your career would have been over for that shit. Straight up. Like, like, I don't know how people get into that shit. Like, that's something I just really can't fuck with. You know? Especially nowadays, this whole generation weird as fuck, so like, ain't like the old days. Like, everybody nowadays just do whatever the fuck they want and not say shit. That's why I'm glad I'm not a part of. I might be stuck in this generation, but I'm not from this generation. Like my era is like fucking 90s and early 2000s hip hop and R&B, which is gonna be my next topic to discuss. Cause, I can't get into this shit, the music that's been playing nowadays. Like, I just can't do it. Ugh. Shit. Damn. That Jack Daniels sure woke me up. But, yeah, I just can't get into shit like that. Like, that's why I'm glad I grew up from an earlier time, man. Like, when everything was real. Like niggas was talking the way they was talking. That made sense. Like, just like having these dudes just like talk about how they really live. And not give a fuck who, what they say or anything. Like, that's the group. Like, that's the era I grew up on. Like, since I talked about that on hip hop, I'm gonna do the same thing for R&B on this episode. Like, I'm like to me, like, I'm a big R&B head to the fullest. Like, especially now, like, as I grow up, as I get older, it's like I start to appreciate, like, especially like the early R&B stuff, like, from my time. Like, I start to appreciate this shit more and more every day. Cause it's like, when I listen to certain songs, like, especially when I be on Instagram, like, when they be playing on, like, some songs that I used to, like, fell in love back in the day, like, like, I tell you, man, like, just, like, having these people just talking about, love and all that stuff, like, I wanted to share that same thing. Cause especially me over the years, like, before I even met my fiance, like, it seemed like at that time, my love life wasn't going nowhere. Like, cause, cause I always want that, that feeling of love, like, feeling appreciated. Because most of the time, like, girls, they be so concerned about how I look and all that stuff, but most of the time I be seeing women be surrounded talking about these dusty ass dudes that ain't got shit in their life. Like, they ain't got nothing to do with their lives. And I used to hate that shit, like, cause, like, when I fall in love with a woman or whatever, like, I always, like, want that feeling to, to share that same passion, like, share that same love making as they were talking about you know, back in them days, you know, because especially like when I listen to like 70s and 80s R&B, like they were like kind of discreet with this shit. Like they were just like, you know, that old school love making. You know, talking about I want to be around you, I want to make love to you, like all that stuff. You know, like that's like more my thing at that time, cause you know they was being classy with it. Nowadays, y'all got motherfuckers that just like put that shit out there. They don't give a fuck. Like they will just put that shit out there. I want to fuck and all that stuff, doing 69, all that shit. It was just like, god damn. I was like, y'all really put this out there, huh? Like, even most of the time you be hearing that shit on the radio. Just like, what the fuck? I was like, what kind of shit y'all putting out there? You know, they even got little kids singing to that shit. And I'm like, And that's why I'm like, when I have my child, like, I will show them how, like, you know, how to get women, all that stuff, and show them how much they appreciate it on this earth. You know, pretty much tell him and all that stuff about, you know, how to love somebody. Make sure, you know, you don't disrespect their trust and everything like that. Like, that's how I was raised, you know, to treat a woman real good. Because I was raised around females. Like, I got a mom and 2 sisters. So, being around with women all the time, man, it's nothing to me. You know? Like, that just kind of made me love women even more. Just, you know, just to have them just to be themselves. Just express how they are and all that stuff, man. Like, that's the thing that I love about women, and that, you know, they represent for themselves. Like, you know, they don't hide it on nothing. Like, like, just show them who you are and all that stuff, and don't care what nobody else got to say. You know, got their own money and all that stuff. Like, that's what I love about women. You know, because it's a beautiful thing just to have them around. Because without them, all hell would have broke loose up in here. Straight like that. You know, and that's why, like I said, my fiance, she's like that. You know, like, I just love her for who she is. Like, her personality, you know, how she like communicates, and how well that she really cares for what I say and who I am. Like, that's the most important things that I look, you know, for a woman. You know, just to show me that they love me, and, you know, not be afraid to be around me in public or anything. And just, you know, just love me for who I am. In and out. Just like I always do the same thing with women. You know? Because I don't give a damn how bad you look or anything. Like, I will love you regardless. You know? Like, because, like, with my fiance, like, I love her. Like, I truly love her. Because, like I said, without her in my life, man, I don't know what to do. You know? Because, like, especially now, listen to, like, the R&B songs, it's like, now I can relate. You know? Because, like, I'm an R&B head to the fullest, man. Like, just like I said, especially, like, with dudes, like, no matter how masculine you are or whatever. Like, especially once you met that certain person in your life, like, it's like you gotta show off to her for the world to see, you know. Not afraid to say, oh, I love you, and all that stuff. You know, because me, I never like that, because, you know, because at the time, man, I was acting shy most of the time, because I'd be afraid to tell them I love them so soon, especially when I just met them, you know, because I always had that effect sometimes, man, because, like, once a person cares about me and all that stuff, like, you're stuck with me. Like, you like Velcro, you stuck with me, you know. That's how it was when I met my fiance. Like, you know, because I really love her for who she is. You know, that she not only take care of me, just take care of herself and get her own and all that stuff. Set her goals, accomplish it, all of that shit. You know. And back to what I was saying, man, like, when dudes, like, no matter how, like I said, no matter how masculine you are, like, you can never be afraid to show your affection towards that person, that significant person in your life. You know, like, that's how I always see it. Like, y'all could be tough and all that shit, but, you know, like I said, once you meet that special woman in your life, like, you have to give her all the world has to offer. Like, not just, like, materialistic shit. Like, just show her, like, how really, really and deeply in love with that person. You know? And that's how I am, man. Like, that's how I really am, man. Like, and, like, especially when I listen to, like, R&B stuff, man. Like, and, you know, as far as, like, making love and all that stuff, like, I remember at one point, me and my fiance, she was my girlfriend at the time. You know, we made love or whatever. And I had tried, you know, to set the mood and everything. Like, I even trying to I even tell her to put on an R&B song. Like, for some reason, it just fuck up my mood. Like, I was like, I can't do it this way. Like, this shit just fuck up my whole concentration. Like, I can't do that shit. So, like, ever since then, I just can't make love to no song, like no R&B song. Like, I can't fuck with it. So, like, that's never my thing, but to each his own. You know, because, like, when I listen to, like, R&B stuff, man, like, you know, like, it's like most songs I be listening to, like, you damn near gotta be discreet with it. Like, you just don't want to put that shit out there like that. Like, most of the time, it'll be half and half. Like, you gotta be, you know, be classy with it. And there's another side where you gotta be a whole freak to it. You know? It's like, it's weird to find stuff like that sometimes. Like, especially trying to find that one song that just set the whole mood. You know, just to get shit popping. And I remember me and my girl, and at the time we started dating, like, we had played I remember she told me that, you know, she liked John B. They Don't Know, and that was my favorite songs too. You know, cause I like shit like that. Like, I like listen to stuff like that. You know, where you really gotta show affection to her, and show them that you love them. Like, you ain't gotta worry about what everybody else gotta say. That's pretty much what the song means. Like, they ain't got no shit, just us. And then, they don't know how deep our love is for one another. Not like shit like that. Like real smooth, classy type R&B stuff. Like, that's my thing too. Cause like I got like a whole bunch of like R&B artists I listen to, like especially in my era. We got Keith Sweat, who else? Drew Hill, Jaheim, who else? Genuine. And one thing about Genuine, like, to me, he's like becoming like one of my favorite artists, like my favorite R&B artist of all time. Like, he's like mad underrated to me. Cause like his first two albums is like classic. The Bachelor and 100% Genuine. Like, it seemed like at that time, Genuine, he could have took over R&B with an iron fist. Like, that's how, like, especially when he used to work with Timbaland. Like, Timbaland, like him, G, Aaliyah, man, like, there was, like, and Missy. Can't forget Missy. Like, to me, there was, like, that crew that I grew up listening to. Because I really wish they had did an album together. Like, that would have been the shit. Like, on everything. And I used to tell people that shit, man. Like, they should have had did us, like, a whole album. And I remember somebody was telling me that they had did at one point, which was under construction, but I'm like, that's Tim and Magoo's thing. Like, that's not even a whole group album. I'm talking about like just having them, all of them, like in one song, like on each track or whatever. Like, that's more like Tim's thing. Like, Timberlake, he's like one of my favorite producers as well. Like, cause like he's like diverse with this shit. Like, especially growing up, like all I ever hear was from him and the Neptunes at that time. Like, especially when I was in North Virginia, it's like them niggas is like took over the music industry at one point. Cause all I ever used to hear was their tracks, like every day. And then, like, I used to like bump to this shit like every minute, even to this day. Like, I still listen to that stuff. Like, but like I said, Genuine, like, he's like my favorite R&B artist. Truly underrated. Like, truly underrated. Cause nobody don't give him no props like that, like they supposed to. Cause like, it's like, to me, he like set the tone for niggas to step up their R&B game. Like, not just by singing, but like, dancing, acting. Like, dude could do it all. Like, like, Genuine, he's that dude to me. He always gonna be that dude to me. So shout out to him. There's him, R. Kelly, and I ain't gonna get into that. Cause like, I respect his music, but just not the shit he be doing. Cause that's crazy to me. And I used to be a big fan of R. Kelly too. Like, I used to be bumping to his shit. Like, I still bump to his shit every now and then, but I just don't condone the shit he been doing. molesting them little ass, these little girls and shit, and having them as hostage at his house or whatever. Like, I was like, what the hell he has gotten himself into? Because I understand he got molested and all growing up, but it's just like, you ain't gotta take it that far. Like, you ain't gotta you ain't trying to have, you know, bring your pain towards to anybody. Like, leave that shit alone. Like, man, like, I just can't rock with that shit, man. Because even though I'm a fan of his music, but just not him as a person. Like, that's some shit I can't, you know, condone. And, you know, and Drew Hill, man, I used to like Drew Hill too. Like, you know, I only listen to like some of their songs, like Beauty. That's like my favorite song from them. Like, Beauty is her name. That's like the ultimate jam right there. And I remember when Cisco came out with the Thong song. I tell you, man, I thought at one point he was gonna like dominate that whole year. And he pretty much did with that one song, but it seemed like after that shit just kind of died down. Cause I remember at one point he used to have his shit blonde at one point. I was like, is this nigga gay? And I used to think that even when I was like, 10 or 9, when that shit came out. And I used to thought that nigga was like straight fruity. And I didn't even know what damn near gay was at that time. Like, I'm just like, what the hell? Is something wrong with him? Like, that was an odd thing, especially on a black man on top of that. Like, that was weird to me. Like, because of him, like, now you got niggas be doing the same shit. Him and Rodman. Him and Dennis Rodman. Like, they started that shit. Having niggas die in their head. And that's something I would never do either. Not even by force. That shit kinda suspect to me. I don't give a fuck what anybody gotta say. I just can't rock with it. I can't rock with it. You know. And then, you know, and then Jaheim, he was my favorite artist too. Like, I fuck with some of his music. Like, the ones I consider my favorite are Fabulous and Put That Woman First. Like, Put That Woman First is like my ultimate favorite Jaheim song. Cause like, I be damn near in tears every time that song come on. Like, especially when it's like the tempo is like kind of slowed down. Like, that shit would just have me feeling all kinds of ways. Cause like, when you listen to certain songs, like, especially if you're going through something and it just kind of relates the situation you deal with, like, you just be in tears. Like, I just be having those moments, man, like, just thinking about life and what I'm gonna do. Like, I just be having those moments sometimes when I be damn near in tears, like, for no reason. You know, like, that shit will hit you bad. Like, it's no feeling no other person could experience, like, especially if you're going through something. You know? It's like, like I said, I'm a big R&B fan, like, to the fullest. Cause like I said, from like to me, like the late 90s to like, I want to say like 2002, from like 98, 99 all the way to like 2000, about to say 2020, 2002 was, to me, it was like the best time for R&B at that time, because I always felt like R&B was in the sand after that. Like, it just kind of got whack afterwards, you know. But it's like time progressed, and especially once I started getting, you know, older and stuff, like becoming a teenager, like you got certain like R&B people. Damn, I just started kicking in already, but like especially by the time like when I was in 8th grade, 9th grade, like there was like certain R&B people I was starting to fuck with at that time, like T-Pain. Like he was like my favorite artist too. Like he had a whole game in a chokehold. Like he dominated that shit. Like whatever song he was in, like he was like the whole highlight of the song. Like I don't even listen to nothing else or anybody else. Like once he starts singing, it's a rap. You know, he had that shit. He had the game on the chokehold from 2005 all the way up to like 2009 at one point. Like he really had the whole industry in the chokehold. Like he's like my favorite artist. And then you have Chris Brown, of course. Like, even though I never condone the shit he be doing nowadays or whatever, but like that don't take away from his talent at all. Cause I always see like Chris Brown, like he's like one of my favorite artists too. And you know, like Chris Brown, like he's the most talented motherfucker that I ever see out there. Like he's truly like the Michael Jackson of this generation. You know, like that man can do it all. Sing, dance, act, all that shit. Like even do graffiti. Like that man can do it all. Like, you know, like that man could do it all. Ooh. And then, like one of my big favorite artists is The Dream. Like if you haven't listened to that man, The Dream, I suggest you do. Cause The Dream, like I remember when I first heard him on that song "Shorty's a 10." I didn't think of it at first, cause I was like, "What kind of song is this?" And I was like, this nigga ain't gonna go nowhere with just that one song. But once later on, like, I remember when he came out with Falsetto. Like that, like every time I listen to that song, especially to this day, like it just put me back to like when I was like in 10th grade, man. You know, especially like I said, when it's like slowed, like the tempo is like slowed down a bit. When it's like screwed and chopped pretty much. Like, especially it's like on a late night and you listen to it, man, like that's like I get a nostalgic feeling all over. Like for real. Like, that's how bad that shit was, man. Like I love that shit. Like The Dream, like he's like my favorite artist. Like he's like, to me, he's like the best songwriters out there to me. Cause it's like his pen, like dude's pen game is like phenomenal to me. Like he penned a whole bunch of shit for a lot of people. Like Rihanna, when he did that Umbrella song, like Then whenever I hear that and then listen to some of his stuff, I was like, yeah, he wrote that. Especially that Ella part. That I'm like, that's all him. That's all him right there. You know, that's all him. You know, like the dream, like he's like phenomenal. Like he's underrated to me as well. Like, you know, like, and I remember he did that versus with Sean Garrett. I never had watched the versus thing or whatever, but and I was like Sean Garrett, like they could have had The Dream and Neo, because to me they're like two of the best songwriters out there to me, because like they nice like that, like their pen game is like no other that I ever even heard of. You know, that's where I really feel like that's the versus shit. They had that versus him and Neo. Like that would have been the shit right there. You know. And it's like I said, as time progressing on, like I haven't been listening to like today's R&B as much as like I did before. You know, because the only closest thing I would have probably listened to was Drake. I'm like, don't get me wrong, like that man's talented too, cause he could rap and sing. You know. But it's like now today, like I don't listen to certain artists like that. Like none of them don't even caught my eye like that. Like none of them came and sing like that. In all honesty, you know. And I be listening to like some song like, you know, Beyonce. Like she's one of my favorite artists too. Like I've been listening to her since Destiny's Child. Like I think she could sing. Like no matter what people say, that I think she could sing. You know, like with her when she was in Destiny's Child, that's like my shit when they was together. You know, like I said, I fuck with Destiny's Child. You know, but like I said, today I just really don't have like a certain artist I could listen to. I really don't. Because none of them ain't all that to me. Like, they really not. Because, like, their music don't move me like it's supposed to. It's just like, it's like niggas be sad all over and shit. And I'm just like, nah. Like, I just don't have time to listen to people's, you know, songs or whatever. Like it just don't catch my eye like that. Like don't get me wrong, there's talented people out there now, but you know, that's doing their thing, but I just can't get into it. Even a motherfucker was telling me, oh, you should listen to this person, whatever. I'm like, okay. I'm like, this shit ain't all that to me. Like, it's straight whack. Like, I can't get jiggy with this shit. Like, I just once the song start off like kind of weird for me or whatever, I just turn that shit straight the fuck off. I turn that shit straight off, cause I can't deal with the music today, man. Like it's just not my cup of tea. You know, like that's why I be listening to like the older stuff, like even like the 70s and 80s stuff. Like I could listen to that shit forever. You know, like I just can't listen to shit like that. You know, I just can't do it. Like, You know, but like that's my opinion about today's R&B nowadays. Like I just can't fuck with it like that. I just can't get into it. So yeah, that's pretty much it for me, for real. Like I'm just gonna talk about what I gotta say, my opinion on stuff, and if you don't like it, oh well. You know. And I'm gonna try to cut this a little bit short today, cause you know, like I said, I'm tired. Like I literally just got off of work earlier, like an hour ago or whatever. So, and that's why I'm like in a rush trying to kill this off, man. Especially now, this is like my last season, like my last episode for the season. You know, I'll try to come up with some better stuff for the next season coming up. So, yeah, like I said, stay tuned for that. So I'm hoping, like I said, hopefully I'll start that shit by this summer. Hopefully. You know, hopefully I can start that shit off this summer. And, yeah, like I said, I'm gonna try to interact with people, do these interviews, all that stuff, man. Like, this shit gonna be popping. You know? Because, like I said, man, stay tuned for the next season coming up this summer. Hopefully, this summer. You know, once I get everything straightened out, we'll be good to go. So, like I said, man, that's it for this show and this season, should I say. We're keeping up with Teezy. So make sure y'all follow me on Keeping Up with Teezy on Facebook and Instagram. And I'll try my best to keep y'all updated for the, you know, for some updates for the new season and all that stuff. So, you know, y'all definitely hear about it real soon. And you know, like I said, follow me on Facebook, on Instagram, and as well as on YouTube. You know, Keeping Up with Teezy podcast. Like, subscribe, comment, and share, all that good stuff. You know, and I'm glad y'all here listening to my shows. And I'm glad y'all, you know, took the time to listen to my podcast and all that stuff. So, like I said, stay tuned for more. There's plenty more in the way. You know, it's time for me to take a break from this shit for the meantime. You know, this shit really cracking. So, other than that, and I'll see y'all next time. I'm out of here. Peace.